Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is a brand new stream. That's right, this is September 10th. Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday night, is going to be the new home for Legends and Legacies, a Tales of Phandelver campaign happening right here at 8:30 p.m. Eastern every other Tuesday. And we are very excited to be joining you for New Beginnings, is what we're calling this episode 0. I decided that I've never actually broadcast a session 0. It's been a busy summer, and it's been difficult for us to get together as a group and do that session 0. So I figured let's just do it now. So tonight's game will be a little later than usual. We'll dip in and out of roleplay elements. I want to take the opportunity to introduce you to each of these amazing players that are going to be joining us on this adventure. Tell you a little bit about what you can expect as we embark on this campaign. And then we're going to learn sort of introductory level about each of the characters that these fine folks will be playing. And we're going to have them do a few dice rolls. Now, before we get going, I do want to touch on a couple of quick announcements. I'm going to be reworking our intermission. If you've been a part of any of the other MTD streams, we have a video that plays during the intermission, but it is outdated. But the point to that video is to cut down on the amount of announcements at the beginning. So, for this week, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. And they're pretty, I think they're pretty important. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, underneath our friend Brian there, you will see two logos, Jasper's Game Day and Initiative Coffee Company. Mini Terrain Domain is proud to be partnered with Jasper's Game Day, an organization founded by a young woman named Fenway, the teen DM, right here in my home state of Michigan. And this organization was created in the wake of a tragedy, but she has turned it into something amazing. Jasper's Game Day is dedicated to raising awareness and prevention of suicide through tabletop gaming. Our friend Quinian in the chat has already typed in !Jasper, or you can go down below the Twitch stream to the information tab and you will see a direct link to donate to Jasper's Game Day. All of that money goes to benefit crisis centers around the country. In addition to that, you will see Initiative Coffee Company's logo there. That is because Mini Terrain Domain has proudly partnered with Initiative Coffee Company's Help Action to create a unique roast of coffee called Metade. It is a medium Brazilian and Peruvian roast. I think in one of the previous streams I said that it was a Barovian and Peruvian roast.
We'll take it.
So I would be interested to taste some Barovian coffee, unless that old woman with the cart is brewing the coffee. But nonetheless, for every 12-ounce bag of coffee that you purchase, $3 of that does go to benefit Jasper's Game Day. Now, the final thing that I wanted to touch in, well, actually, and I do want to bring up the fact, it's pure coincidence that Brian is directly above that Initiative Coffee Company, because whenever you've heard, for many, 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 many months, you've heard me talking about Metade Roast and Initiative Coffee Company, right there's the face behind the name. So it's a little extra exciting to have you be a part of this campaign, Brian.
To be a part of the campaign.
And sure. Finally, on that same note, you'll notice scrolling along the bottom, and you can type in !help. If you find yourself at any point struggling with your day-to-day life, if you find that you are in a desperate situation and you need somebody to talk to at any time, you can type !help, and you will find the phone number for the National Suicide Hotline. Trained professionals are standing by at that number at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or you can text 741-741. as we go along, I'm going to be adding more and more information about suicide awareness and keep that information available to you with just a few keystrokes. It's incredibly important to me. And today is World Suicide Awareness Day. So I definitely wanted to make sure that we bring that up. And I keep forgetting to do this. Megan usually fills in the blanks in our other games. We have a lot of Canadian friends in our community, Canadian friends that play with us, one of whom is with us tonight. And so we've also been providing the Canadian suicide prevention hotline. So I will get that information up there as well. The primary takeaway from all of that is that you matter, and we think you matter. We want you to be here, even if it's just to watch us sit around and play some D&D. It means a lot that you choose to spend your time with us. So if you need that number, do not hesitate to reach out. The other thing you're going to see going along in the scroll down below is mentions of domain dice, or if you look up above Karen's head, you will see they are called, for this campaign, domain nuggets. And already one domain nugget has been earned in a meta fashion right before we went live. Yvonne subscribed to the channel with Twitch Prime, earning one domain nugget. Domain nugget, not nugget. Those of you that many of you are familiar with what domain dice do, and some of you, this will be your first time with those. In our games, domain dice can be earned through subscriptions, resubscriptions, raids, but also through per dice, a $5 tip to the channel, a 500-bit cheer, or as I said, through the other means of subscriptions and whatnot. Each one of those that you have available has a different value. One domain die can be spent by any player at any time to re-roll a d20 and take the new roll. 2 domain dice can force the dungeon master to re-roll a d20 and take the new roll. 3 domain dice can be used if you're desperate for healing and it's outside of a short rest. It will allow you to spend hit dice to recover. And that is a 3 domain dice for one person to spend hit dice to heal, not for the whole party. 4 domain dice does allow you to turn a failed death save into a successful death save. However, if that is a critical failure, it will cost you 8 domain dice to convert that. And finally, what we call the Patron's Blessing. 5 domain dice will allow you to turn any hit into a super critical. That is an automatic double max damage hit. I have only ever had them used twice in games. Once was against a black dragon, and it actually helped to turn the tide. So that's something you guys will want to remember as we start playing. You have those at your disposal as long as the audience, and we put the methods for creating them are specifically for you, the audience, to have a way to interact with our games. So that was a long-winded introduction, but like I said, we're going to have that stuff taken care of during the break in future games. I would like to take this moment to go around the overlay here, and we're going to meet our players for this campaign. And we're going to start to my screen left with Yvonne. Yvonne, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to play this game.
Oh boy. Well, I'm Yvonne. I enjoy role playing. I enjoy really good role playing. And why do I want to play this game? Well, because Jake's running it and he keeps promising me a new game, and I finally took him up on one that he had open.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you here. I've been wanting to play in a campaign with you for a long time, so I'm glad we can make this happen. Next up, we're going to go down to Brian.
Oh, hi. I'm Brian. Jake mentioned I'm the owner and kind of everything else of Initiative Coffee Company. I am pretty pumped. I've played on a couple of like one-shot guys with Jake before. and it's always been a blast. So I'm real excited to leverage a coffee partnership into a spot on one of his sweet shows.
Well, I'm happy to have you in a campaign. I've enjoyed playing in the couple of one shots that we played in, so it'll be fun to have you in with this group. Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike. Jake actually got me into D&D from a home group, and I've played in one of his streams through the Tomb of Horrors that we did 2 years ago now. So when the opportunity came up to come into this game, I jumped at it. I'm really excited.
And this is actually Mike's second attempt at a Phandelver campaign. I think it was about 3 years ago we tried to get one going, and it just fell through. So I promised him a spot in the new campaign if he wanted it, and I'm glad you took me up on that. Next up, we have Todd.
Hey, how are you, everybody? I'm Todd. I met these guys, Jake, at Jasper's Game Day on Twitter. I wanted to get involved, so I made some donations to try to raise some money, and then they invited me to play in a one-shot, and apparently they enjoyed me enough that I was invited to now play in a permanent one. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited to be in yet another game, streaming live on Twitch, and finally a D&D one, so kind of happy about that.
Excellent. We're definitely glad to have you be a part of this as well. And finally, Karen.
I'm Karen. I'm not actually Strahd. Well, not tonight anyway. I met Jake playing online through Absolute Tabletop, where I've had the pleasure of being in a few of his one-shots. So when he asked if I would join the campaign, I was like, hell yeah. So here I am. I'm looking forward to this very much. And excited to see what we're all going to do. Yeah.
All right. Well, one last announcement. I was reminded in the side chat here. This is on Twitch. All of September is Subtember. So if you are subscribing with a brand new Tier 1 subscription, that will be 50% off. And if you are converting gift subscriptions or Amazon Prime free subscriptions, or Twitch Prime, I should say, free subscriptions to Tier 1 subscriptions, those are also 50% off throughout the month of September. So remember that. We are just a couple of subscriptions away, I think 5 subs away, from unlocking a new emote slot. So I'm actually thinking that I want to put a one of these golden domain nuggets in there, because we don't have any domain dice emotes. So I would love to have one of those in there as the new emote that you can use if you are a subscriber. So keep that in mind. All right, so speaking of domain dice, Yvonne, you got in early with the, you didn't even know it, but the meta earning a domain die. So I'm going to have each of you, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this, because we haven't done this before. Let's do this. Let's roll. Don't get worried when I say these words. I want you to roll initiative. But you're not rolling for your characters. You're going to use your character initiative score, but you're rolling for yourselves. And take a moment, and then I will get your numbers from you. Karen, what did you get?
15.
Todd?
I rolled a 6.
Mike?
14.
Brian?
11.
And Yvonne?
Are you just straight roll, or do you want initiative bonus?
Yeah,
as
add
well?
your initiative bonus to that as well.
21.
I got
All right.
an 8. I got an 8.
Okay. Yvonne, I would
Yes.
like you to roll 1d6.
Okie doke. 4.
All right, and we're going to subtract 1 from that, so 3. So you have just earned your party 3 more domain dice. I do not like you guys to start out a new game with 0 domain dice. So that's just to kind of kind of like putting $1 in the collection plate before we pass it around, let people know that there's something there and it's okay to donate, and maybe it inspires people as those domain dice start being used. I will point out the domain die that's in the middle of the Domain Nugget logo does not count as a domain die. It's part of the logo, and it's where when you earn more than 5, that's where the modifier will show up, and that will increase. In one of our campaigns, they are currently at 105 domain dice earned through generous donations of individuals. All right, so a lot of you players already know this, but I want the audience to know this as well, and just kind of as a refresher, I want to give you a sense of what you can expect in this campaign. So we are, the campaign is called Legends and Legacies, Tales of Phandelver. And what we're doing is we're using a combination of the D&D starter set with the Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign, mixing in elements of the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which was the adventure that was part of the brand new Essentials kit, which is sort of a reissue of the starter set. And they just released on D&D Beyond, if you purchase the Phandelver, or excuse me, if you purchase the Essentials kit, they give you a code for D&D Beyond that gives you access to the Essentials kit related stuff. 3 new adventure paths that take you from the Phandelver setting all the way up through level 20. So as long as you guys want to keep playing, and as long as your characters survive, we'll keep playing this campaign. And we have all of the tools to keep it going. Now, many of you know I like to push in a lot of my own little elements. I'm very low prep. I love D&D Beyond. I love the official published materials, and so I rely on that a lot. But if you've played through Lost Mine of Phandelver, if you've read through Lost Mine of Phandelver, you still may find yourself going, wait, what? At certain things that we do during this campaign. I have told all of you when we first started getting together, the first thing I told you is you are not heroes. It is important that you know that. You are all each of your characters is coming from a very unique background, from whatever they were doing in their life before the moments that are going to lead up to this new path in their life. And it's to kind of set the tone that, yeah, your character might be cocky and self-sure and think, yeah, I can run in there and I'm going to be the one that's going to hack and slash and do whatever and kill them all. But as first level adventurers, you are very, very squishy and you are very green around the gills. And I really am looking forward to seeing all of you take your new adventurers and see how, as they're presented with the challenges of working as a group, learning new things, the challenges of potentially life or death, treasure, rewards, and whatever else may come your way, to see how these characters grow and what decisions they make as we experience all of this together. Another thing that I've told everyone as part of the overall adventure, and you can kind of get the sense from just the design, the aesthetic of the overlay and everything, is I'm leaning very heavily into Phandelver as a frontier town. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is D&D Gunsmoke, although don't be surprised if you see some guns making an appearance. But I do really like that aesthetic. Mixed in a little bit of Deadwood, a little bit of possibly even you'll see some traces of Firefly in here, minus the sci-fi aspect. But I really love the aesthetic of that whole frontier. It's going to be sort of pushing out of we're going to be starting in mid to late autumn, and the season will begin transitioning towards winter. So that'll help to put you in that mindset as well. That it's just at the point probably in fall where the leaves are starting to turn and autumn is just beginning to kick up. So maybe, just maybe, one of the taverns in Phandelver will be serving pumpkin spice lattes or pumpkin spice ale, if that's your thing. Everybody's going, no. So what I would like to do as part of this session 0, this introductory section, is I would like, we're going to go in reverse order. Actually, you know what? I'm going to surprise you guys. I'm going to roll to see who goes. And I'm going to have you introduce your character just as much or as little as you want to before all the characters get together. Now, I haven't really had this conversation with everybody yet as a group, because I don't really feel like it's necessary. But as we've all never played together in this group, metagaming should not come into play. You're going to learn things about your fellow players' characters through the D&D Beyond interface. So you might learn certain things that your character wouldn't know. So just keep that in mind. And many of you having played with me, there are times where I will reveal on camera something that only your character hears or sees that nobody else hears or sees. It's not practical in this environment to pull you aside and whisper. I mean, I suppose I could tell you how to take your headphones off, but then the logistics of trying to get your headphones back on so you can hear, we won't go through that. Otherwise, we'll work on... I'll do some things offline through our various messaging sources. And you can all feel free to do the same with me if there's things that you want to do with your character. Before, though, we do the introductions, I did want to do one other thing that's a bit of housekeeping for the game. House rules. I have just a couple of house rules. One doesn't pertain to this group unless one of you chooses a Dragonborn as a replacement character. But you should know this in case you encounter Dragonborn. In my games, Dragonborn's breath weapon is a bonus action. Not a big deal, as none of you are Dragonborn. Speaking of bonus actions, quaffing a potion, such as a healing potion, is also a bonus action. Taking that directly from Mr. Matt Mercer in Critical Role. I've always loved that rule. So you can, if you have a free hand, you can flip a potion real quick before or after you take your combat action, but it does use your bonus action. The other house rule that is probably the biggest one that comes into play is how I do critical hits. If you roll a natural 20 on an attack, you critically hit. You, no matter what you hit that creature, you deal maximum damage, adding your dice and your modifiers together, and then you roll your damage dice one more time. So if you're a rogue, you'll add all of your sneak attack and your weapon damage and your modifiers, and then you'll roll all of those dice again. Same thing goes with any number of things that involve a crit. And the bad guys have that feature too. Critical fails will 9 times out of 10 result in you, if it narratively makes sense, opening yourself up to an opportunity attack. And again, the same thing happens with my bad guys. In a recent game at a con, I had one of my monsters critically fail, and the player dealt the encounter-ending blow because of that opportunity attack, because I rolled a crit fail. So they go both ways. So, before we get into the character introductions, does anybody have any questions about the house rules or anything that we've talked about so far? Anybody?
Do.
Yes?
So taking a potion is a bonus action. Administering a potion to someone else? Question mark? Ellipsis? I think Mercer makes it an action. But
And I was going to say, because I just listened to one where that was the case. And yeah, because you're it's essentially a form of administering first aid. Mm-hmm. It is an action if you're going to interact with somebody else, because then you're doing more. You know, it's not just you pouring it in your mouth. You've got to take control of them and pour it in their mouth, that kind of thing. So yes, great question. Anyone else? Players, audience, you can ask questions too. I guess if we see them, we can answer them in the chat. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a die, and then I'm going to call on you to introduce as much or as little as you want about your character. And just think about, you know, maybe one thing we'd like to hear is what are their motivations for potentially for leaving wherever they are, and being open to the possibility of adventure. So it looks like it's going to be Karen first. Somebody's telling me in the chat that the wrong... Yep, it is our other game. I will fix that. It's our Monday night game that's showing up. I thought I had that fixed. So Karen, while you're introducing your character, I'm going to fix the overlay to show your characters in D&D Beyond.
So for this campaign, I'm going to be playing a human warlock by the name of Chu Mei Li. And Mei Li is not actually from where we're starting. She has just recently arrived, so she's already kind of given up her home. She was escaping from basically familial obligations. Basically, they wanted to marry her off, and she wasn't going to have that. And so instead, by the what's the word I'm looking for? Her grandmother on her deathbed basically gave her some powers and an item and her blessing basically to run away if she could, knowing that Mei Li is not the one to follow what her parents were saying. So that in a nutshell is why she is here and looking to start a new life.
Excellent. And the overlay has been fixed. So if you mouse over on Twitch, you will see all of these amazing characters. I'm very excited already with the little bit I've seen about Mei Li. I think that she's going to be a really interesting character, and I'm looking forward to see how you are going to be playing this character, Karen. Next up is, wow, went from a 1 to a 2. Todd.
Hi. So I'll be playing Collie Farrell, human sorcerer. By day, he's just the son of some merchants in town here, and loves his family. No dramatic experiences. At night, he kind of craves adventure, so he might be found gambling a little bit, trying to use his charisma to his advantage. But lately, it seems like some wild magic has come over him, and he's coming to terms and trying to accept these new gifts of wild magic that's come over him. So that's about it. He's there, and I guess he's ready for the next thing, with the blessing of his parents to leave them to run the show as he's old enough to venture on.
Excellent. Very excited. Todd and I have been talking a lot behind the scenes about his character choice and some unique things that are driving him, so I'm excited to see all that stuff come into play. Looks like it's all the way around to Yvonne. Tell us about Tara.
Right, so Tara is a young woman who is having to strike out on her own. She was raised by a traveling merchant, unsure as to what put her in that circumstance. That's kind of one of the things that she wants to figure out. And she's been trained up to be a pretty decent fighter, but she's got a few extra quirks about her that people will find out over time. What put her in the situation of wanting to get out of town basically is she did not have a head for business. And so even though her her master, she was apprenticed. Her master had passed away. She had no head for business, so she ended up selling the business. So she needs to find something new for herself to do.
Excellent. I knew, particularly with this setting, that I was gonna like Tara just because of that last name, Dead Branch. It's just got such that frontier western sound to it, and I'm really intrigued to see what you're going to be doing with her as we embark on this adventure. All right, it's down to 2. Odds it's Brian, even it's Mike. Mike, tell us about your character. For obvious reasons, I do have a bit of an affinity towards Tabaxi.
Okay.
I wasn't hitting on you. Sorry if that sounded that way.
Okay, then. Yeah, so Scory is a Tabaxi monk that came over from Mastika, the Tabaxi homeland, and where she studied under the monastery of the Cat Lord. But like a lot of Tabaxi, the sense of curiosity got the better of her, so she came over to Neverwinter in search of lore, stories, legendary artifacts to take back to her homeland. And because of her relative inexperience outside of the monastery, she was captured by traders when she got over almost immediately, and just recently escaped and is sort of lost in this new world.
Very interesting. I love the which is weird because I'm not a cat person. I'm one of the few streamers that doesn't own a cat. I like cats, don't get me wrong, but I just loved Tabaxi when they were introduced to 5th edition with Volos, and I love playing a Tabaxi monk in our Monday night Waterdeep game. So I'm really curious to see and excited to see what you're going to do with Scurry, and I love that name too. So I'm not going to roll a die because there's only one choice left. Brian, tell us about Undertow.
Good morning, friends. The tide is high, the skies are clear, the waves are with us. I have come from the depths of despair all the way to the surface to bring you wisdom of the waves, the knowledge of the tides. My lady is with me, and we will have a wonderful adventure together.
I always love seeing what Brian's going to do with his characters. In the just a couple of games that I've had the pleasure of playing with you, Brian, you surprise in a pleasant way, just coming right out of the gate with a unique characterization. So it's going to be a lot of fun bringing the 5 of you together. So what I would like to do is, in a moment, we're going to dip into a little bit of role play and possibly some dice rolls. And I'm going to go each of you individually, and we're going to start to move your characters into position to where this could be almost like a prequel. We're going to move them into position so that when we kick off the adventure proper in 2 weeks, everybody's set for the action to fall into place. But what I would like to do now is I'm going to find it first because I have so many, and this is not a complaint, I have so many D&D Beyond windows open that sometimes I lose my which window's which, and I close the wrong one. So here we go. I would like to get into the possibility that where did it go? Well, I just lost it. I'm trying to find the section where there are some backgrounds that connect you potentially to the overall area, and it just left me. I closed the tab. I had it queued up and I closed the tab, and now I can't remember where it is. One moment. Well, I know. Hold on. No, that's not going to do it. So let me ask you this. So we know that Scurry, that you're in the Neverwinter area, and you recently escaped from your captors, the traders that had taken you. And what were these traders doing? How did they treat you? What was it that they had you doing?
So I was captured right off the boat into Neverwinter. I was prodded and poked and treated as an animal, and I was going to be traded as some sort of luxury pet to a master in a faraway place. I only stayed captive for about 3 days until I was able to escape and make a run into the streets of Neverwinter. And at this point, I'm lost. Don't know where I should go, where I am, and am searching for seclusion, safety, and a direction to go.
So you've been, for the last few days, you've been wandering the streets of Neverwinter, trying to evade your captors, trying to figure out even a way out of this city. Neverwinter is a big city. And especially for somebody that is from a foreign land and so new to this region, at times it can seem overwhelming. Just the sights, the sounds, the smells. Go ahead and make me a wisdom saving throw. I'm going to start off right.
$18.
So you've had a little bit of experience just in the journey across the sea to get here. Or across the lands. I can't remember where. So you've had a little bit of experience with dealing with new sensory things and sensory overload, that loud noises still get to you, but not so bad that you're cowering in fear. You do kind of start every once in a while when somebody bangs a crate down, or a cart comes rumbling past. You hear that loud clattering of wooden wheels on cobblestone and several crates rattling. And even now, as a couple of wagons go rattling by, and there's a crate of fresh fruit on the back, and a couple of apples come tumbling off and roll into the edge of the alley where you are. So you would be able to pick those up if you wished.
So Scory looks around hesitantly, doesn't see anyone in her immediate peripherals, and going without food for 2 days, she pounces at the food and then immediately searches for a shadowy area to hide.
Give me a stealth check.
That's 20.
Yeah, in this, even within the daylight of the city, many of these buildings have shadows in the spaces between them, and you found comfort in a place. Discarded straw, you're able to kind of bunch up, and you've been able to kind of stay out of sight during this time. Just checking something. I found what I was looking for. All right. So as far as the backgrounds that potentially tie you to the adventure, I will get with you guys offline about that as we just roll through this introductory role play, and we can weave those in. Because I'm gonna have to do a little customizing now that I'm looking at them. So Scotty, you picked up a couple of loose apples, and you have once again hidden yourself amongst the shadow. It would take a very perceptive individual to notice you. They'd have to almost be looking for you. You're hidden so well in here. Let us switch for a moment to let's go to Meili. Where now you left home with a purpose, though no direction. Your purpose was merely primarily to leave home. You were gifted by your grandmother, and eventually you have found your way to the city of Neverwinter, and you have perhaps found it also a bit overwhelming. And you find it, for the most part, for now, you've kind of stuck to the outskirts, where there are taverns and there are inns and there are shops, but they tend to be much cheaper and lower end. There's a lot of traffic going in and out. It's easy for somebody to blend in. As you're heading through this region of Neverwinter on the southern side of the city, I would like to know, what was it that your grandmother said to you? What were the words that she said to you that were the last words that she spoke to you, that are of those words, what are those words that you hold most dear, or perhaps feel most threatened by? Tell us a little bit about that as you're entering the city or wandering around this part of the city.
So we see a young woman, small. She's probably only about 5'2". She's got jet black hair, braided, a braid on either side. Her clothes are clean and well kept as well as she could, but they're definitely looking worn and threadbare at this point. She's had a long journey. But the one thing that you'd notice is that she has a really ornate sheath at her side. And as she's walking through, it gets jostled by a passerby, and she grabs it. And in doing so, she remembers the white-haired old woman, her grandmother, lying on the bed way back at home, months ago that she left. Her grandmother passed her this sheath, telling her that she could see the wanderlust in her granddaughter's eyes, and the fact that there was no way that she would be able to stay tamed with the man her folks had chosen for her. And so as her grandmother passed this sheath to her, she said, "In time, my dear, you will understand that what I give you is not only a blessing, but it is also a curse. But I give it to you because I believe you have the strength and the heart to carry this. Not many in our family know about this, but I was given this by my grandfather, who passed it to me, thinking that I was the one who could carry it. And I believe it shall go to you. In time and when you are ready, it will make itself known to you. And Mei Li took this sheath and not really understanding the words of her grandmother, but knowing that something important was going to happen because of it. And then her grandmother said, "Now run, my child. Run far and don't look back. Your feet will take you where you need to go. Do not worry about me. I will always be with you. But go now, child, before it is too late." And thus, Mei Li started on her journey that night and has never looked back.
Excellent. And as you are moving through this part of the city, this area around the southern gates, what are you looking for in particular? Are you looking for a place to stay? Are you looking for something to eat? Are you looking for a job?
Probably all three of those. It's been a long journey. She finally finds herself in some place, with civilization, and there's a lot here. She's overwhelmed, like you said, and these people are so different from what she is used to back at home. And right now, the rumbling in her stomach is probably setting her feet more than anything else, but knowing that she also needs to find some place so she can afford to buy the food. And so a small nondescript place would be where she's looking, where she could probably, get all three, potentially a job, working there, room and board for doing something.
Give me a perception check.
I rolled a 17 on the die, so that will be an 18.
As you're wandering around, you catch a mixture of scents. You can smell some of the some flowers that are being transported via wagons inward toward the city. A lot of fresh cut flowers. You can smell some of the fresh fruits that are being brought by. There's a wagon that almost involuntarily makes your mouth water as this entire wooden wagon rumbles by, entire ham hocks hanging from wooden cross beams, several dressed down pigs heading somewhere within the city. You can even smell the brine of the pickled pig's feet on the back as this cart goes rumbling past. You smell the straw, you smell the sweat of all the close bodies, and you catch a faint odor of, or rather scent of, something being cooked. It smells a bit like pastries and meat, and you spot a street vendor that has a flat metal surface with a fire burning underneath, and they're ladling in some sort of batter and creating these thin, very thin pancakes, and they are searing onions and meat and quickly tossing it in these and rolling them up as just little street meats, for lack of a better word. And every once in a while you see somebody walk by and throw a silver piece or two on the edge of the wagon, and they quickly, one or two or three of these are made and given to them. It appears to be the closest and relatively inexpensive street vendor.
smelling all of this food as she's walking by, her stomach growls at that moment when she's looking at that vendor, and without hesitation at this point, I mean, she's checking her coin pouch for a silver that she's seen, realizing that there's not much left in her coin purse, but the smell of these are just too overwhelming. And so she will head over to the vendor with her silver to hopefully procure some of those tasties.
Without even looking up, you hear the clatter of the ladle as it expertly hits the metal surface, and as it's pouring and it spins in a quick circle with barely a scraping sound. Another hand takes a handful of this meat and onions and throws it on the grill. The smell hitting you instantly. There is a woman that is running this cart. She is a human woman, a very gray, very wrinkled, weather-worn skin. Without even looking up at you, as you get within the sphere, close enough to the cart that she assumes you want to buy something. Looking and smelling's free. 1 silver for 1. 2 silver for 3.
Oh, good woman. Those look delicious. What do you call them? And she'll pass over a silver as she's doing that. I'll take 1.
Well, it depends on the time of day. Right now, I'd call it breakfast. And she quickly scoops up with a spatula some of the meat in, and surprisingly not burning her fingers, or perhaps her fingers are just so calloused from burns. She actually scoops the edges of this, folds it up, rolls it, and hands it over to you while simultaneously taking your silver with the other hand. It is surprisingly not like burning to the touch when you touch it. It's very warm, but this is such a thin pancake that is created that it doesn't take super high heat to create it. And it just smells delicious.
Maylee would take it from the woman, and she would step back a bit so that she's not right in front of the cart anymore, interfering with the woman's trade. And she would take kind of a small little taster bite of what this food is that she just received.
I need you to make a constitution. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is. It's wonderful. The meat is seasoned. It has a little bit of a spice to it, a little bit of saltiness to it. Of course, the onion flavor permeating through it. It's a little bit stringy and tough. It's obviously not top cut sirloin. You suspect that it's probably beef, but you can't be 100% certain. You can tell I've been playing in a lot of Mike the Piper games. He likes to describe food like crazy, and I didn't realize it wore off on me. Also, I'm hungry. So you enjoy this tasty treat that is perhaps the first food you've had in a while. Next. So before I say this, I want to just verify this, because Todd, you have mentioned a couple times that Kali is from the town. I'm assuming you mean from Phandelver originally, or do you mean from Neverwinter?
Whichever works. I could be from Neverwinter if that's fine with you, or Phandelver. Either one.
Let's roll with the Phandelver side. It's going to give you an interesting connection to the town from your perspective.
Okay.
So we'll roll with that. It is a couple days journey from let's see here. Of course, it's not showing the scale on here. There we go, 5. So it's a couple days journey, maybe. between Neverwinter and Phandelver. Being the son of merchants, I imagine it's not a strange thing for you to find yourself tasked with heading to Neverwinter to get supplies for the smaller outpost of Phandelver, or occasionally in town to trade. This time, would you have, there was no reason for you to take a wagon, but would you have walked the distance, knowing that it would take you a little bit longer, or would you have borrowed a horse, or would your family own a horse? How would you travel, Collie, to Neverwinter?
So I think Colley's would, understanding his parents to trust him to get out there and feel secure, they probably wouldn't want him on the open road that much. So perhaps he would have borrowed a horse or used his parents' horse to get to the next town instead of being out on the road. So
all right. So you find yourself having already taken care of business, mostly with the autumn coming and the harvest coming. Your parents sent you into Neverwinter, as they have for the last few seasons, to secure with some of the city traders contracts for them to purchase some of the foodstuffs that come out of the fields in the Phandelver area. Maize, pumpkins, a variety of things. So this time, this is why you just needed yourself and your pack. You find yourself in a familiar part of town as you come in the closest entrance, the southern entrance of town, and you also sense all those familiar smells. You recognize a few of the people in this area. There's a couple of human guards that guard the southern gate that at the very least know you by sight, enough to give you a nod of recognition as you pass through the gate. Let me ask you this. We're going to let the dice decide this one. I want you to make a charisma check. And I'm going to let you decide if this is performance, persuasion, or intimidation, based on what you think your attitude and activities would be while in the city.
So I think he would always go for persuasion before intimidation. He always try to be more docile than aggressive. So a charisma check, first time playing 5th edition. It's just a D20 roll.
Yep. You're just going to roll a D20, and you're going to add your persuasion modifier.
Okay. $22.
So the guards give you a smile and a nod as you pass by. And as you pass close by, being on horseback, you're close to their height as they're on these platforms on either side of the gate. And the one, a guard that you know as Baron, a human man, red of hair and red of beard, he gives you this look as you're passing by that he's cutting daggers through with his eyes. But as you get close, he smiles when he sees you. You're going to be in town long enough for me to win back some silver.
I don't know. Did you get paid yet? I'm almost starting to feel bad. Almost.
Sometimes I think you know when our pay schedule is. You seem to always come into town when my coin purse is a little heavier. Perhaps you'll leave with a lighter coin purse this time.
what would you say? I can't even remember how many times I beat you now. I'll give you favorable odds tonight to try to get it back. How about that?
Well, we'll see how the day goes. I still got a full day ahead of me. We'll see how this day goes.
First drink's on me, though. I promise.
And as you're sort of, because there's a continuous flow of traffic, this is all happening as you're on the move. And as you say that, he just says, yeah, you say that every time. And then he turns to the other guard and he goes, he still hasn't bought me a damn drink. As you head in to the gate area, give me a perception check.
$22 again.
You notice
bonus, right? 4.
Yep. Yeah, you add your perception bonus. So if you rolled an 18, that would indeed be a 22.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you're rolling in, you see a lot of these. You're kind of, there's a wagon with laden with fruit in front of you. There's a wagon laden with flowers behind you. And as you get through the gate, they're starting to disperse a bit. You do see a lot of the usual people. You notice old Magda, who is the meat and pastry vendor nearby here. And you see a rather out of place young woman that is tentatively purchasing one of these meat pastries from old Magda. And you hear her familiar patter with the customer, and you see this young woman turn, and you can actually see this look of she's doing everything she can not to just gobble this thing down in the street, just trying to look, at least some semblance of decorum. And old Magna just smiles and waves at you as you're riding by. You also, with that perception roll, you just catch sight of a tabaxi scooping up a couple of apples that just got dislodged from the cart. They rolled towards the mouth of an alley, and you see this feline humanoid form dart out, snatch up the apples, look back and forth, and seem to almost melt into shadow. If you had blinked, you wouldn't have noticed this.
Now, are they common here? Would I have seen one before, or because of my background, would I have really never seen one?
I would say, why don't you let's play it this way. Roll me a history check.
Okay. Stand by. Roll a 5.
You've never seen a cat person before.
Is the young girl still staring at me?
I don't know if the young woman was staring at you at all. I think she was just.
Oh.
You just saw her.
Who was staring at me?
The young woman was Mei Li.
Right, but who waved to me? The
old Magda waved at you. She's the vendor.
Did you see that?
Yes, dear. Yes, dear. I see it. I see all kinds of things.
Okay, I ride off. I ride towards it. I'm fascinated by the tabaxi.
So as you're heading toward the alleyway, we're gonna cut over to actually scurry before we cut away to one of the others and introduce them. From your vantage point, give me a perception check. Unless you wouldn't be watching, unless you're completely hiding away. But if you think you would be kind of keeping an eye on the streets, particularly at the mouth of your alley, give me a perception check. Oh my gosh, Alan, you're killing me.
22.
All the times to look at the chat. Alan has just called. I don't know if I want to say that. I don't want to make that canon. Look at the chat if you want to see what chat is suggesting the meat's called. You got a 20 what?
22.
So yeah, you see, in addition to this flurry of activity, you do see this old woman who you've spotted, for a couple days selling these meat pancake things, and you just catch sight of a human man on horseback, and as you just sort of peek, grab your apples and duck in, and you turn around, you see that he has seen you.
Jake, would this human resemble any of the captors? They were humans as well. Would similar clothing, anything like that would make me hesitant? Or
I'm gonna say that while Kali is not particularly of a noble class, he is of a merchant class. While there might be some similarities in the air about him, and maybe where his dress is, a little bit better than some of the people in this area, the type of people that would have captured you and made you their property, had a certain air about them that this person doesn't seem to have. So I think there's some similarities, so it's up to you to interpret that how you will.
so as the human approaches, Scurry would not immediately run, but she would sort of back into the hay that she's found herself in. She's not going to approach the human, but not run either.
All right, perfect. So we are going to cut to Undertow. Why is Undertow in Neverwinter? What has brought you here? What are you seeking, and how is it that you find yourself in this region of the Southern Gates?
I would say that my cousin, who was one of the lesser Ganassis, informed me that there was a major disruption in the elemental plane of fire. I've heard that Phandelver has been destroyed. Something about the moon, something about fire. I'm not sure. It seems like a tall tale told by children. But I'm on my way to investigate and to learn secrets.
So you've been just beginning to knowing that the Southern Gate of Neverwinter leads to the High Road, which in turn leads to the Tribor Trail and Phandelver. You know that this is going to get you started on your journey to discovering this. Give me an insight check.
22.
Your cousin has a tendency to be full of shit. But your cousin also has more experience than you, and just enough of his stories have been true that while you suspect that this is probably a tall tale, there's that part of you that just thinks there might be some truth to this. Now I would like you to make a perception check.
That is a 15.
And as you're kind of thinking this and figuring out, you're seeing all of these wagons. Right now, there seems to be a lot of wagons coming into town through this gate. How long have you been in Neverwinter?
I don't know. Like, I suppose, like, I don't have like a hard mission or anything. I imagine I've come to the surface from the underwater city or town that I'm from to just kind of like learn things. And so I'm just mostly a wanderer / scholar thing, I guess.
So a little bit of a Inigo Montoya, pursue legends here, wander there.
Yeah.
So you're not like hardcore, like I'm on a mission to discover the fate of Phandalin. Like,
No, I mean that's like a guideline, like a guidepost.
it's
I
just
suppose,
a suggestion.
like, I'll find it when I find it, kind of thing.
Right now, it's one of the side quests, and I'm trying to rack up all the side quests I can. So with your perception check, first off, you've been here long enough to just get the sense that this time of day is when a lot of the traders that have set up outside the city overnight, waited for the gates to open, are moving into the city. And in the afternoon and evening is when wagons begin to head out. So there's still a couple hours before this crowd thins out and the new starts. You can already see on some of the side streets, though, that there are some wagons and merchants that are either already loaded or in the process of being loaded. They look like they've been staged. Not far from where you are in this sort of large queuing area with within the gate. I'd say probably about in this crowd they'd have to be about 10-15 feet from you. There is a dwarf, and he's speaking with a human who is armored and has the look of though he wears no particular rank or insignia or colors of any standing guard or army. Not that you would recognize them necessarily. He has the air of somebody who has seen battle. And the two of them are talking, and you see him gesturing over towards one of the wagons that's loaded up. And the human male says, I know you got the cart, but you still got to get a horse. You're going to need a horse that can pull it if you're going to get those things down to Phandalin. Hey, that's the truth of it. I thought I had the horse set up, and it fell through. I was supposed to buy a mare off of one of the guards, but I think he lost it gambling recently. Well, we're going to need to make haste. We're going to get this stuff down to Phandalin. And then their conversation gets lost in the din of the crowd. But you seem to have picked up that this dwarf and this human have a wagon that they need to get to Phandalin, and they are looking for a horse.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Did I hear you're headed to Phandalin? You require a horse?
How tall are you as a
6'2".
Genasi? 6'2"?
Yeah, I'm like human size.
So the dwarf turns around to look at you and sort of didn't expect you to be so close, and kind of steps back and looks up at you, and you're pretty much looking eye to eye with the human.
Can I ask you, what help would a horse be? They're so small, and there's no water nearby.
What? The dwarf is just looking at. He's like trying to find the words. He's working his jaw. The human looks at you. Boy, what are you talking about?
Breed. I mean, they are the only male species that carries children.
What are you talking about, boy?
Horses. You were discussing horses, and seemingly you think that enough of them could pull a cart, but that seems absurd. They swim. There's no water between here and Phandalin, is there?
I'm going to see if this gentleman is familiar with you. The dwarf actually looks up at the human and sort of pantomimes like, has he been drinking?
Do you require some water? I have some water. The finest water.
Look, son, You seem to be a bit confused. We are not talking about water horses. We are look over there. And he points at this human merchant that's has just come in through the gate riding on a horseback. That is a horse.
Oh, you mean raisin horses? Oh, my apologies. That makes a lot more sense.
Did you just say raisin horse?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure I heard that correctly.
As in like the dried out fruit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here we just call them horses.
I suppose there would be a colloquialism at play there that would be very confusing. As confusing for you in my vernacular as for me and yours.
Given that you seem to have a bit of a lack of understanding of what we meant when we were talking about horses, when you were apparently eavesdropping on our conversation.
I mean, you were talking quite loudly, but that's neither here nor there.
I find it highly unlikely that you would be able to assist us in this matter. Not so fast, Sildor. It's still a body. You have an interest in Phandelver?
Well, only that I've heard it was sacked by fire in the moon somehow. I don't really know much about it other than that, but I've decided to investigate the matter. My cousin told me a story, but you know those descendants of fire genies, they can be tricky sometimes.
I don't know about fire genies or nothing, but I can tell you Phandelver stands.
Well, that's fortunate news.
Collie, give me a perception check.
$16.
As you're closing in on this alleyway where you saw this tabaxi dart in, you do hear not far from you, you see a dwarf and a human talking rather loudly with a I don't mean to be presumptuous, but I believe from your character art, your character undertow is blue hued.
Yeah. Yep.
So a blue tinted skinned humanoid, and you've heard your hometown's name mentioned quite loudly a couple of times. And that's really all that pops out of that is just Phandelver, fire.
Have I ever seen the race that Undertow is before?
Let's go with another history check.
My guy's dumb too.
No, you've never seen. He's not dumb. You pretty much flip between Neverwinter and the southern
Very
part of
smart,
Neverwinter.
Specific things.
Can I have a full description, please, of Undertow?
Sure. He is wearing. He's blue skinned. He has green hair with gray eyes. He's about 6'2". He's wearing scale mail made from like tortoise shells and like shark fins. As well as some like deep sea like creature parts that you probably are less familiar with. I don't know. I mean, he's about 6'2", vaguely human sized and shaped, but has the appearance of, I don't know if you'd be familiar with like Triton or Merfolk either, but seems a little bit more watery than most humans.
He's gonna continue to ride towards where he saw the big cat, though. But he clearly looks right at you, and he's fascinated by looking at you, like just extremely like excited.
So as this conversation is happening in the street with this human and this dwarf, this other human on horseback has just ridden past Mei Li, who has just finished one of old Magda's meat pockets. And Scurry is hiding in an alley. There's one more individual, another human that we need to find out who they are, where they are. So Tara, why are you in the southern part of Neverwinter? What has brought you here, and what are you seeking?
So Um, what you see is I am going from merchant to merchant asking if anybody is interested in buying my shop, buying my wagon, buying my horse, because I've given up on trying to do the business life because I just have no head for it.
So you've been making your way through just realizing that you need to not be a part of this. You need to get away from the city and free yourself of this burden with your master having passed away, and you left to deal with the business. You begin talking to some of the other merchants, and I would like you to make a... Well, let me ask you this. Are you just trying to offload the business, or are you trying to make a little bit of coin at it? You've said by your own admission that you don't have much of a head for business.
Right. So I think I'm just trying to get rid of it.
What is the business?
It was a tinkering smithy.
So small objects,
Right.
curiosities, occasionally, probably dealing with some of the metal components that have to do with tack and things for the wagoners and the farriers, but also probably, I imagine, and maybe why the business was confusing is this master did like to tinker around with things, and the shop does have an abundance of junk in it, things that he thought he could appropriate into better things, but there is some value to it. It's a shop space for one. So why don't we do this? We're going to do a couple charisma checks, and I want you to determine your tact. Are you going to be trying to persuade somebody, or are you going to try to bully them into... and by bully, it could be as simple as you're just trying to almost beg them, but would be a form of intimidation. So you make your choice.
Persuasion.
All right. So you're having a conversation with somebody who has expressed interest in the shop. So go ahead and make me a persuasion roll. And it's going to be opposed against this individual.
14.
You're asking an awful lot for somebody that's recently come into owning the business.
I understand, and I do apologize. I'm just trying to get the best amount of coin I can for the memory of my former master. I mean, you got to understand.
Well, he was a bit of a fixture around these parts, and that pun was not intended. He was respected by some, but there's a lot of work going to be involved in keeping this place, getting it up to snuff, and seeing what's able to be sold. What's use is of the place.
I understand. I mean, do you have actual interests, though?
I would not be talking to you if I did not have actual interest. Go ahead and make another charisma persuasion check.
5.
But I'm going to have to take into consideration the amount of work that I'm going to have to do. You look like you're in a hurry.
It's just, I don't want to see this fail any more than it has. I would love to see my master's ideas and designs take off. And I know for a fact that you've been known to take the simplest of ideas and make it blossom.
You flatter me. Make another persuasion roll.
Oh, for flip's sake. 4.
It just so happens that flattery is one of the currencies I deal in. I will help you. I will not buy your horse. I have no need for a horse. But I happen to know that by the south gate there is a dwarf by the name of Gundren Rockseeker, who seeks to hire a horse this very day. If you're quick, you may find him. For the space and everything in it, it is a small space and there is a lot of junk. I am offering you what I believe to be a fair price. And I'm going to... this. He reaches into his robes and he withdraws a belt pouch. And you hear the coins. You see that it's weighted with coins. He reaches in and he pulls out a large fistful of coins, keeping close to the wall, keeping guarded, as he transfers this, or takes this large fistful of coins out, and then transfers it over to another bag, another pouch on his belt, and then offers you the now significantly lighter bag. I will offer you 40 gold pieces for the business as a whole. Keeping in mind within this economy, and
No,
kind
I'm
of setting
saying-
setting the economy of this world, I realize is something that we didn't really set, just so you have an expectation of, how far does a gold piece go. 40 gold pieces would probably take you a year or more in your wages at the current position you were in. It would take you a year or more to earn 40 gold pieces. You know that a lot of things are traded, food and other stuffs are traded in single gold piece values or even in silvers and coppers. So this is a fair amount. It's up to you to decide if you want to take his deal or haggle.
40 gold pieces?
That's what it. Yes. You said you'll take it?
I'll take it.
The keys.
Absolutely. Get the keys, hand them over. Just let me gather my things and gather my horse. It's all you. Do you need me to sign anything?
I'll take care of all of the paperwork.
Thank you.
And you have now 40 gold pieces. And you have given over the key to the shop. And you quickly gather your stuff up. You know that there is a dwarf in the square seeking to hire a horse. Scurry. A man on horseback approaches the mouth of your alleyway. It's the man who spotted you, who you saw see you as you ducked in. What are you doing?
Would Scurry have heard the loud interaction between the strange blue humanoid and the other individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. From your alleyway, you have this weird, it's almost like this has been your view for a while as you've been hiding in this alley. It's almost like this is your stage. And you have off to the left side of the stage, you have this blue man and this dwarf and this human that are conversing loudly about Phandelver. You have to the right and in the background, you have a young foreign-looking woman who has just purchased one of those delicious-smelling meat pockets that you're either too poor or too afraid to attempt to purchase. You even catch sight of a human woman hastily selling off to a trader, I might add, the merchant she's selling to, you have seen before and has dealt with the merchants that had taken you captive. Though you've never seen him do anything nefarious. And then, of course, this human man that now stands center stage in your view.
How far is the human man on horseback from me?
I would say 15 to 20 feet, depending on how far back in the alleyway you've pushed yourself.
So based on her interactions with humans to this point, she does have a recollection from her studies of a blue humanoid that was, I guess the best way to say it would be like an apostle of the Cat Lord from her studies at the monastery. And she feels that her luck would be better suited approaching. So as this humanoid approaches, Scurry is going to dash across the alleyway towards the blue humanoid.
Do you do so using your feline agility?
I think that's only during combat, isn't it?
Personally, you can use it whenever it makes sense. Within the scope of combat, though, yes, it gives you double move, and you do have to wait until you stand still for a round before you can use it again. But just because I know that's an ability and you have the option, I wanted to get the sense of, are you...
The urgency, yes.
Yeah, the urgency. So,
yes, she would.
Kali, you see this cat person almost looking like a cornered cat. And as you're approaching and closing the distance, they move almost impossibly fast, faster than you would have imagined. And they're out of the alley and quickly, and all of a sudden, do you immediately approach the blue man and the dwarf and the human?
If I'm uninterrupted, yeah, I run right up. Azula, you have come to protect me. Oh, prophet of the Cat Lord, thank you for saving me. Save me from these humans.
What? I don't know who Azula is, but...
What in the nine hells?
My lady will be happy to protect you.
You will protect me? Thank you, Azula. Oh, kill the human. That is they are the ones that trapped me.
Oh, that puts me in a difficult position here. I don't want to kill anyone.
Hold on one moment. The human man speaks up, and Mei Li, you see this commotion is starting to take place. A couple other people are starting to take notice. Tara, you're just coming back with your bags, and you're seeing this commotion now. The human man turns away and looks directly at you. Kali, up on your horse, and he. Where did it go? He takes a step towards you. Excuse me. He takes a step. Hold on. The smoke from Magda's meat pockets getting in my lungs. You see this man, this armored man, step towards you. He puts his hand on the hilt of a sword. Hold it right there.
No,
Easy now.
Right there. I didn't do anything for
Nope,
that.
I'm not saying you did anything. Just
I will step between Scurry and anyone who looks like they're about to draw a weapon in any way.
his the human veteran is standing just with his hand on his hip, like resting on the pommel, not even like he's ready to draw it. Just like it's a signal of authority. You. He suddenly turns to you, Scurry. What is it? What is it that you said that this man has done?
He looks similar to the traders that captured me 2 days ago. They were going to sell me as some kind of exotic pet. and shares similar markings, similar clothing to the ones that captured me.
You see him furrow his brow as he looks at you, Scurry. This is unfortunate that this happened to you. He turns to look at you, Collie. Are you a merchant?
Of course I'm a merchant. You can ask any of the guards here. I come all the time. I just never seen a giant kitty before. I was fascinated. Or the blue guy with the green hair. This is crazy.
I'm sorry, kitty?
Welcome to Neverwinter.
As he says kitty, Scurry draws out her claws and lets out a little.
At that point, the dwarf just sort of takes a step back from you. Whoa! Let's not get crazy. All right, everybody calm down. Sildar, talk to him. I'll take care of these two. Listen, I don't know what's going on here today. Calm down. And you see Gundren, this dwarf, look at you, Scurry, and kind of just gives you almost a puzzled look, and then he says, almost questioningly, Is it ma'am? Is that the proper way to address you?
Yes.
Right. Calm down, ma'am. And you, sir. Let's figure out what's going on here. The man called Sildar looks at you, Collie. Look, we're not accusing you of doing anything, or particularly what this young woman has accused you of. I happen to have seen him enter the gate barely 10 minutes ago.
I don't think she accused me of anything. She said I look like people. I resemble the markings of someone apparently that mistreated.
It was close enough to an accusation that I wanted to step in before things boiled over.
I'm no longer excited to meet her. That's all I'm going to say. I've never seen one before, and my excitement is gone.
It may simply be a case of mistaken identity. Unfortunately, ma'am, you are a stranger in these parts. And there are some in these big cities that seek to take advantage of your kind. I wish that I could apologize for everyone in the world who is evil, but you will find, as you make your way, there are unfortunately going to be those who would seek to take advantage of you.
Scurry relaxes, withdraws her claws, gives a slight bow, but stays behind Undertow.
Now, and you, Collie, you can't help but notice that now that things seem to have de-escalated a bit, the dwarf is looking not at you, but he's eyeballing your horse.
Have you never seen a horse before?
I've seen a horse. Don't take me for a fool, boy. I'm wondering
is things today I haven't seen before.
It's been a weird day, and it's not even the noontime yet. But what I want to know is, are you willing to hire that horse?
Where are you headed?
I've got a load of supplies that need to be taken back down to Phandelver. The horse I had planned to hire is no longer available. And as it happens, a horse has literally walked up before me. And Tara and Maylee, you're close enough that if you're interested in this conversation, you're absolutely hearing what's happening. Gundren says, "My name is Gundren Rockseeker, and I've got this wagon that needs to get to Phandelver. I'm looking to hire a horse, and I'm looking to hire some individuals to escort it on the journey down to Phandelver. I've got 10 gold pieces for anyone that will take that job. An extra 5 if you'll hire your horse."
Gundren? And you're Gundren, right?
What?
I'm sorry.
Do you have your horse with you?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was just told that you'd be interested in maybe buying my horse.
he looks up to Sildar, the human veteran. When it rains, it pours. It seems as though good fortune is on our side this day. You've got a horse you want to sell.
Yes, sir. I just sold my shop, and the gentleman who bought it said he didn't need my horse, but he did recommend you.
Interesting. Well, I have been looking for most of the morning. Couldn't find a horse for the last 2 days. And it seems I've suddenly got an opportunity to buy a horse and possibly to hire one out. And in my book, 2 horses are always better than 1. What about yourself? Are you interested in making 10 gold pieces plus the purchase of your horse?
Will it get me out of this town?
That'll get you at least a day and a half south of here, down to Phandelver. From there, you can choose your fortune.
I'm interested.
All right, that's 1. What about you? You two souls seemed a bit confused. Are you looking for work? And he's looking at you, Undertow and Scurry.
You say it's only a day and a half or so down the current.
Down the road.
Oh.
Be traveling by dirt trail on a wagon and with raisin horses.
Yeah, well, seemingly 2 of them. Are raisin horses so easy to come by?
Until this moment, they weren't.
Well, I suppose I have pledged to this lady. I don't know what she is, but I have pledged that I will protect her. So if she is willing to go, I will go. I would like to go. I need to go to Phandelver, but unfortunately I have made a commitment. And I intend to follow through lest the waves betray me.
Scurry sort of gives the googly eyes to Undertow. Thank you, kind sir. Yes, I will journey with you.
It sounds like we're on board.
We are, yes. Is that the term you use? Yes. On board.
Oh,
yes.
right. Yes. Yes.
Well,
take this at the flood, as it were.
No. Well, I'm interested in purchasing your horse, or rather, I personally won't be purchasing your horse. I'll give you the extra 5 gold for it. However, when you get down to Phandelver, when you get the goods delivered to Barthen's Provisions, and you would know this place, Collie. You're familiar with Barthen, a very reasonable and well-liked trader, general goods trader in Phandelver. Barthen could probably broker the sale of your horse in Phandelver. You could probably fetch 30, 40 gold for it. So I've got you and your horse, and both of you are on board. What about you, sir? You look like you know the road, and you have your own horse that I'd like to hire out. I'm thinking these individuals could use a good eye watching them on the road.
I don't think she wants me around. I think I remind her of somebody that hurt her feelings or hurt her in some way.
Well, in my experience, there's nothing like the road to make second impressions. What do you say, ma'am? He can prove himself a reasonable individual and keep you safe on the road.
No. Scurry doesn't speak anything, just gives, again, a curt nod and backs away towards Undertow.
Give her some time. Maybe she'll grow on you. If not, when you get to Phandelver, you go your separate ways.
Mr. Rockseeker.
Yes.
If we have an accord, there is. Well, we would have to seal the deal in the way of my people.
I'm afraid to ask.
I will get out a water skin and remove the top, and use my shape water cantrip to splash him in the face. The deal is sealed.
Is it drinking water? Is it drinking water or is it seawater?
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive.
Is that seawater?
The deal is sealed. The tides are with you, sir.
What is Mei thinking and doing as this motley crew is being assembled?
So Mei Li has been watching quite intently, actually, at all this commotion going on. And when it got to the biggest part of the commotion, she used that little bit of distraction when everybody was looking at them to break off a piece of that meat pocket that she was eating. And all of a sudden, the light jacket that she has on her, it kind of moves a little bit. And then a head, not quite sure, it's very small and you don't see it very well, but maybe it's a snake or something. Anyway, it pops over her shoulder and she feeds this meat pocket to it. And then it disappears and her jacket rustles a little bit and then it's still again. And at that, with the last of the meat pocket gone, and it looks like the commotion has died down and people are, well, somebody just got splashed in the face with water. Mei Li decides that this is where she needs to go. And so she crosses the street towards the dwarf. And as she approaches, she's not much taller than him, I would assume, or maybe they're even the same height. She kind of approaches and she gives a bow. Good sir, I hear you were looking for people to help.
Wait. Whoa. Well, I suppose the more the merrier. I did make an open call, and with you, that would make 5. And in my experience, 5 is the perfect number of people for any adventure.
I haven't agreed to go.
Right, so there's 4 and a horse. I thought I had convinced you with the gold.
Well, you did until you said I had to prove myself again. I don't even know what I did the first time, but that's neither here nor there. Did I see the tabaxi before when I made that perception check was like scurrying for those apples as if she was hungry?
Yeah, that's with that perception check. That's exactly what you saw. That
and did I see Mei Li kind of wolf one of those things down as if she was hungry also?
Yep. As you were coming in, she looked like she was restraining herself not to wolf it down, but that she was very hungrily eating it.
Well, my friend, good dwarf, that place is a bit out of my way, but perhaps I can negotiate a little bit more of a favorable deal. How about a couple of those meat pies for all of us that you're hiring for the road? Would that be fair to ask for? And then you can have my horse for 5 and me for 10.
He looks up at you. Make me a persuasion check. And I'm going to say do so at advantage.
So +5. Okay. So you just roll 2 dice and pick the highest?
Correct.
Okay. A 1 and a 14 +5 is 19.
He looks around at you. He looks at the human woman with her horse, eager to get out of town. He looks at the strange blue fellow who just threw water in his face. He looks at the scared feline woman, or not scared, but nervous feline woman. He looks at this new, also seemingly nervous young woman that has approached him. And he looks at you, Collie, on your horse. He leans over to Sildar, and he mumbles something. Looks at all of you and he says, "Then we have a deal. I'll buy old Magnus' cart out this morning for y'all." And Sildar heads over and he has a few words with the old woman, and she starts to protest, and then you hear the clinking of a couple of gold pieces set on the counter, and suddenly you hear that scraping of the spatula and the ladle as suddenly the grill surface is filled with these pancakes, searing meat, and in moments, a dozen of these meat pockets are created. And then, as soon as she clears the grill, she makes another dozen of them. And she wraps them up in bundles of 3. We'll say, for evensies, we'll say that she makes a total of 25. And they're wrapped in bundles of 5 in a thin paper. And she hands them to Sildar, who distributes them amongst you. Gundar Rockseeker walks amongst you, and Tara, he gives you 10 gold pieces, and the same to you, Undertow. Tara, he gives you 15 gold pieces for the hiring of your horse, and he tells you, make sure you talk to Barthen when you get to Phandelver about selling that horse if you still want to. Undertow and Scurry and Melee, you each receive 10 gold pieces. And Collie, you are given 15 gold pieces. Alright, here's the deal. That's the cart right there. It only has the equipment for one horse to be hooked up to it. So you figure out amongst you which is the stronger horse, which one you want pulling the cart, and ride on the other side. Keep the cart safe. The high road, for the most part, is safe. Ish. You've got to keep an eye out for the usual night roving creatures, wolves, and what have you. So be cautious. Goblins shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I don't think there's anything much dangerous than that. Maybe if you hear a howl and a roar, watch out for the owlbears. But beyond that, you should be okay. You look like a fair lot.
I'm not an adventurer, sir. I'm the son of a merchant.
I'm not sending you on an adventure. I'm sending you on an escort mission at best.
You asked me to keep my eyes out. That's what you asked me to do.
Well, you travel back and forth between Neverwinter and other cities, do you not?
I do, avoiding trouble whenever possible.
Then that's what you need to do. Look.
Okay.
All right. So, Sildar and I have to run ahead. We're going to be riding on our own horses. We are leaving now. You will have to wait a couple of hours until the traffic flow shifts here at the gate, and then you can head out. And in about a day and a half, you can meet me in Phandelver. And that is where we are going to end tonight, as Meet Me in Phandelver is the title of next week's episode. All right, well, that was our half session 0, and it just sort of naturally rolled into... I'm glad it did this way, but it rolled into more roleplay than I was expecting that we were going to do. But we got everybody together, and you've sort of had your first impressions. I really liked kind of giving you guys the opportunity to give us your reasons for being there and learning a little bit about each of you in this little scenario, and we're already starting to see some of the personalities emerge. And in 2 weeks, we will return for episode 2 called Meet Me in Phandalin of Legends and Legacies, Tales of Phandelver. And we'll see what these not adventurers do while they are on the high road heading to, I mean, what could go wrong, right? So I do want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. We had a full crowd over in the chat. We picked up a couple of subscriptions. Just a reminder that it is September. All brand new Tier 1 subscriptions are 50% off. And if you're converting a gift subscription or a Twitch Prime subscription to a Tier 1 subscription, those are 50% off too, eh? And you know, if you got your Amazon Prime and you link it to Twitch, you get 1 free subscription every month. You could use it for here. It counts towards our reaching the next goal for emotes. Don't forget about the domain nuggets. The players have 4 nuggets at the start of their Not Yet an Adventure. And they are probably going to need more. But thank you so much, Yvonne, Karen, Brian, Mike, and Todd. I'm excited, mostly with my campaign groups. There's always 1, 2, or 3 people that are in multiple campaigns or crossover. And I love that this is a group that we've never played a campaign together. And this is going to be exciting. I'm already starting to see the makings of what some of this chemistry is going to be like, and I'm very excited about this. I wish we could play every week, but we'll have to deal with every other week. So set your reminders, folks. In 2 weeks on, I believe that is September 24th, we will return for session 2. And if you want to stay up to date on what's going on with that, of course, you can follow the channel up in the wherever it is, depending on where you're watching, and be notified when we go live. Or you can follow at MTD_Jake on Twitter. That's me. And I will get added to the chat commands, everybody's individual Twitter handles and whatnot, if you want to follow them. And when we start putting the VODs up on YouTube, all that information will be down in the information bar. So again, thank you everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you to these amazing players. And now this may be new if you haven't watched one of my games, and to some of you, but we are going to end the stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.